Millions screamed in stark terror as alien death rays vaporized entire skyscrapers. The destruction was immediate and widespread, and no human could believe what they saw. 500-kilometers-long warships blinked into existence by Earth in an instant, guns already charged to fire. The Denobulan fleet hit every major city on Earth with massive particle beams, punching deep fissures into the ground, shattering buildings like they were made of glass. Admiral Emir stood on the bridge of the Denobulan flagship, a cruel smirk on his hardened face. In a few decisive moments, he crippled Earth's ground defenses. Missile silos were cracked open like eggs. Communications relays melted into puddles under the power of his weapons. The slaughter was fast and efficient. This primitive species had no way of matching his firepower. On the planet below, Darren sprinted through the collapsing ruins of New York City. He saw the purple alien beams hit the Empire State Building a few blocks away. The searing energy dissolved the lower levels, steel girders dripping like molten candle wax. In seconds, the 1,000-foot monolith collapsed down, smashing buildings into rubble. Darren dashed around falling stones, his lungs burning as a dust cloud billowed down the street. He ducked into a cafe, moments before its windows blasted inward. Glass shards sprayed over his head, heart pounding as he hid behind a counter. Overhead, the sky burned purple as more alien beams pounded the planet. They'd snuck up on Earth. No warning, no demands. Humanity's defenses shattered like brittle ice. Cities worldwide crumbled into smoking craters. The Denobulan fleet overpowered Earth's militaries with zero challenge. Their ships bristled with exotic energy cannons and shielding beyond human science. Darren glanced around as the rumbling of destruction shook his bones. He saw terrified civilians cowering amid splintered timbers. His tactical mind raced, analyzing troop concentrations, engagement ranges, target priorities. He understood the harsh reality of their enemy's supremacy. The human race faced extinction if they tried fighting this head-on. They'd already failed. Their forces were outmatched, decimated, cities ablaze, citizens in blind panic. Darren had no choice. He had to get crafty. He would mount a desperate mission, infiltrate the alien flagship, and sabotage it from within. Get sneaky, find a weakness, anything to give humanity a chance. He rushed toward an emergency bunker. He needed to contact command and get this Hail Mary plan in motion. Every second the Denobulans bombarded Earth was 1,000 lives lost. He would find a way to strike back. He had to. This wasn't over. Darren quickly radioed General Simmons, his fingers tapping a desperate rhythm against his thigh. The general's voice crackled through the static. "What's your situation, Darren?" "Earth is getting demolished, General. We need to strike back now. I have a plan to infiltrate their flagship and take it down from the inside, but I need a team and some tech to pull it off." There was a pause. Then Simmons replied, "I'm listening. What do you need?" Darren rattled off his requirements. Elite soldiers, each with a critical specialty. Cutting-edge stealth tech and EMP devices to counter the aliens' advanced systems. Simmons agreed. "I'll get you the men and equipment. Bring me that flagship, Darren." Within an hour, Darren had assembled his crack squad. There was Lieutenant Mike Johnson, a prodigy with computers, Sergeant Chris Lee, who could rig an explosive out of chewing gum and a paperclip, Corporal Alex Petrov, a chameleon who could blend into any environment, Private Tom Nakamura, a close-quarters demon with a black belt in 3 martial arts, and Private Juan Gomez, a sniper who could shoot a gnat's ass at 500 yards. They geared up in adaptive camouflage suits that bent light around them like a cloaking device. Each man carried a compact EMP grenade that could fry the Denobulans' power systems in a burst of energy. Darren led them aboard the X-47 Phantom, a sleek black spacecraft that was humanity's best-kept secret. The Phantom soared into the chaos of low orbit, slipping between the hulking Denobulan warships like a shark in a shoal of whales. They'd managed to reverse-engineer some alien tech they'd captured, and now the Phantom's hull shimmered, rendering it all but invisible to enemy sensors. Darren's hands tightened on the controls as they approached Emir's flagship, the DFS Conquest. It dwarfed the other alien vessels, bristling with enough firepower to glass a continent. The Phantom shuddered as he guided it into a docking bay on the Conquest's underbelly. The bay was empty, the Denobulans not expecting anyone to be so brazen as to board them. Darren and his team slipped out of the Phantom, their cloaking suits blending them into the walls of the alien ship. He turned to his men, his voice low and urgent. "It's all right, we split up. Mike, you're with me. We're heading to the computer core to upload a virus and kill their weapons. Chris, Alex, you two hit the engine room and plant charges. Tom, Juan, you keep the path clear and watch our backs. Move fast and quiet. We get this done and get the hell out. Earth is counting on us." The team broke into pairs and melted into the shadowy corridors of the ship. Darren and Mike crept toward the core, dispatching the occasional Denobulan guard with silent efficiency. They rounded a corner and froze. Ahead, a group of Denobulans were herding a dozen humans into a holding cell. Among the prisoners was a woman in a tattered business suit, her blonde hair streaked with soot. Darren's eyebrows shot up as he recognized her. Dr. Elizabeth Sanderson, the President's chief science advisor. Mike hissed, "What's a bigwig like her doing here?" Darren's mind raced. If the Denobulans had Sanderson, they might have intel on the aliens' endgame. He whispered back, "Change of plans. We're busting them out. Sanderson may know something we can use." They waited for the guards to leave. Then Darren slunk to the cell's control panel. His fingers flew over the alien symbols, his suit's built-in scanner deciphering the code. The cell door hissed open, and the prisoner's eyes widened in shock as Darren and Mike materialized in front of them. Sanderson stepped forward, her voice shaking but defiant. "Who are you? What's happening?" Darren flashed a grim smile. "Ma'am, we're here to get you out and stop this invasion. But first we need to know what you know about these aliens and why they're here. The fate of our planet is at stake." Darren nodded sharply, his mind racing. He turned to Mike. "Can you hack into their security system? Find out where they're holding the other prisoners?" Mike's fingers were already dancing across his wrist-mounted computer. "On it, boss. Give me a sec. Got it. Looks like they're in holding cells on Deck 7, Section 12. Darren keyed his comm. "Tom, Juan, change of plans. Head to Deck 7, Section 12, free those prisoners, and arm them with whatever Denobulan weapons you can find. We're getting them out of here." "Roger that," Tom's voice crackled back. Darren and Mike sprinted towards the computer core, dispatching Denobulan guards with quick, silent takedowns. They reached the core, a pulsing mass of alien circuitry. Mike jacked into the system, his face bathed in the glow of his holodisplay. "Uploading the virus now," he muttered. "This should scramble their weapon systems, make them turn on each other." On the bridge, alarms blared as the Denobulan weapons suddenly swiveled, targeting their own ships. Confusion and panic erupted as friendly fire ripped through the fleet. Tom and Juan reached the holding cells, quickly overpowering the guards. They tossed captured Denobulan pulse rifles to the freed prisoners. Dr. Sanderson caught one, her face grim with determination. "Follow us," Tom barked. "We're getting off this ship." Chris and Alex met them at the rendezvous point, the X-47 Phantom. But as they prepared to board, a menacing figure blocked their path. Admiral Emir, flanked by a squad of elite soldiers. "You humans have caused me enough trouble," he growled. "This ends now." Pulse bolts crisscrossed the hangar as Darren's team and the Denobulans opened fire. The humans scattered, using their stealth suits and EMP grenades to even the odds. Darren spotted Emir through the chaos, the alien leader cutting down humans with ruthless efficiency. Darren charged, engaging Emir in hand-to-hand combat. But Emir was fast, far faster than any human. Blows that would crush bone barely fazed him. Darren realized with a start that Emir was a cyborg, his body enhanced with advanced prosthetics. But every machine had a weakness. Darren feinted left, then jabbed right, planting an EMP device directly on Emir's chest. The Admiral convulsed as the electrical surge overloaded his implants, frying delicate circuits. He collapsed, twitching and sparking. "Move!" Darren yelled, ushering his team and the prisoners aboard the Phantom. They blasted out of the hangar, the conquest looming behind them. Seconds later, the explosives detonated. The flagship shuddered, secondary explosions rippling along its hull. Escape pods ejected in droves as the once mighty warship listed, venting atmosphere and debris. Aboard the Phantom, Dr. Sanderson turned to Darren, her eyes hard. "We need to talk. I know why the Denobulans are here, and it's worse than you can imagine." As the sleek X-47 Phantom rocketed back to Earth, Dr. Elizabeth Sanderson leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Darren, there's something you need to know about the Denobulans' true motives." Darren turned in the pilot's seat, his brow furrowed. "What is it, Doc?" Sanderson pulled up a holographic display, pointing to a complex molecular structure. "It's called neutronium, an extremely rare mineral found deep beneath Earth's surface. The Denobulans' advanced technology, especially their FTL drives, depends on it." She swiped to another image, a barren, cratered landscape. "Their homeworld's reserves are nearly depleted. They're scouring the galaxy for new sources, and Earth has one of the largest deposits ever discovered." Darren's mind raced, pieces falling into place. The ruthless invasion, the relentless bombardment. It wasn't just conquest, it was a desperate resource grab. He stood abruptly, pacing the Phantom's cramped cabin. "So even after the damage we inflicted, they won't give up easily. They can't. Earth's neutronium is too valuable." Sanderson nodded grimly. "Exactly, but maybe we can use that to our advantage." Over the next hours, as the Phantom streaked towards friendly territory, Darren and Sanderson hatched a daring plan. They would offer to share Earth's neutronium with the Denobulans, a generous supply in exchange for immediate withdrawal and a binding peace treaty. They pitched the idea to Earth's top brass and scientific minds. Heated debates ensued, but in the end, consensus emerged. Diplomacy backed by leverage was their best shot at ending the war. Darren and Sanderson found themselves aboard a hastily retrofitted diplomatic vessel, soaring back toward the looming Denobulan fleet. A hand-picked team of negotiators and security personnel accompanied them, faces tense but resolute. As they approached the alien armada, Darren took a deep breath and keyed the comm. "This is Captain Darren Cade of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. We come in peace, seeking to open a dialogue with Denobulan leadership. We have a proposal that could benefit both our worlds." Tense silence stretched out, the seconds feeling like hours. Then a deep rumbling voice filled the channel. "This is Commander Zorak of the Denobulan Expeditionary Force. We will hear your proposal. Transmit coordinates for a meeting site. Come unarmed and with minimal personnel." Sanderson and Darren exchanged surprised glances. They hadn't expected the Denobulans to agree so readily. They set course for a small lifeless moon at the edge of the system, a neutral site for a parley that could decide the fate of two civilizations. The human shuttle touched down, kicking up clouds of grey lunar dust. 100 meters away, a sleek Denobulan transport landed with a whisper of repulsor lifts. Darren and Sanderson disembarked, flanked by a pair of diplomats and 2 armed guards. They strode across the barren plain, the earth hanging bright and blue in the starry sky above. 4 tall figures emerged from the alien craft. At their head strode a gaunt, severe Denobulan, his dark uniform bristling with insignia. Commander Zorak, Emir's second-in-command. The 2 parties converged in the middle, a wary distance between them. Darren stepped forward, heart pounding but voice steady. "Commander Zorak, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I am Captain Darren Cade, and this is Dr. Elizabeth Sanderson. We have come to propose an end to hostilities between our peoples." Zorak tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "You have our attention, Captain. Speak your terms." Sanderson activated a holo display, the glittering molecular structure of neutronium hovering between them. "We know why you have come to Earth. Neutronium, the lifeblood of your technology." She met Zorak's unblinking gaze. "We are prepared to offer you a generous supply, enough to meet your needs for decades to come. In exchange, you will immediately cease all aggressive actions, withdraw from Earth space, and enter into a treaty of peace and non-aggression." Zorak studied the rotating hologram, his features still inscrutable. Then slowly he turned to face the Earthlings. "Your proposal is intriguing. I will need to confer with my superiors, but I believe you may have found a path to ending this conflict." He stepped back, inclining his head in a slight bow. "I will convey your offer to the Denobulan High Council for their consideration. Maintain this position. I will return with their response." With that, the Denobulan delegation turned and strode back to their ship. Darren and Sanderson watched them go, hardly daring to breathe. The future of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, now hung on the next words of an alien commander. Back on Earth, Darren paced the command center, his eyes fixed on the screens displaying the Denobulan fleet. The wait was agonizing. Each passing second felt like an eternity, as the fate of humanity hung in the balance. He turned to his team, their faces etched with the same tension he felt. "We can't just sit here, we need to prepare for the worst." They nodded grimly, understanding the gravity of the situation. If the negotiations failed, Earth would need every defense it could muster. Darren strode to the comm station, his voice sharp with urgency. "Get me General Simmons. We need to coordinate with every military base, every fighter squadron. I want our planetary defenses at maximum readiness." The command center erupted into a flurry of activity as Darren's team relayed his orders. Soldiers scrambled to their posts. Engineers worked feverishly to reinforce Earth's shields and weapons systems. The planet became a hive of determined activity, humanity united in the face of potential annihilation. Days crawled by, each one a lifetime of uncertainty. Darren barely slept, his every waking moment consumed by strategic planning and tense comm calls with Earth's leaders. Then finally, a message from the neutral moon. Commander Zorak was returning with the Denobulan High Council's decision. Darren's heart pounded as he watched Zorak's shuttle descend to the lunar surface. In the airlock of the human diplomatic ship, Darren stood rigid, Dr. Sanderson at his side. The hatch hissed open, revealing Zorak's tall, gaunt form. The Denobulan commander stepped forward, his expression grave. "The High Council has made its decision," Zorak intoned. "They agree to your truce terms with one condition." Darren felt a surge of hope, tempered by trepidation at Zorak's ominous tone. What condition? Zorak met his gaze unflinchingly. "The Denobulan Imperium demands the individuals responsible for the attack on our flagship and the death of Admiral Emir be handed over to face Denobulan justice." Darren's blood ran cold. He knew exactly who Zorak was referring to, himself and his team, the ones who had infiltrated the conquest and crippled the Denobulan fleet. Dr. Sanderson stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Absolutely not. Those individuals are heroes. They risked everything to save Earth. We won't hand them over to be punished for their bravery." But even as she spoke, Darren's mind was racing. The Denobulans would never agree to peace without this concession, and Earth couldn't withstand another assault. If the choice was between his freedom and the survival of his planet, there was no choice at all. He placed a hand on Sanderson's arm, his voice low and steady. "Elizabeth, it's the only way." She whirled to face him, her eyes widening with realization and horror. "Darren, no, you can't." He smiled sadly. "I have to, for Earth, for all of us." He turned to Zorak, squaring his shoulders. "I am Captain Darren Roberts. I led the mission aboard your flagship. I accept your terms. I will surrender myself to Denobulan custody in exchange for a permanent truce between our peoples." Zorak nodded solemnly. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten, Captain Roberts. You have my word that no further harm will come to Earth." The next hours passed in a blur. Darren bid a tearful goodbye to his team, to Dr. Sanderson, to the blue-green world that had been his home. They begged him to reconsider, but his resolve was unshakable. This was the price of peace. In a somber ceremony on the moon's surface, Darren formally surrendered himself to the Denobulan guards. As they escorted him aboard Zorak's shuttle, he caught the commander's eye. In Zorak's gaze, he saw respect, even a hint of regret. A nod passed between them, an acknowledgement of the heavy burden of leadership. From the shuttle's viewport, Darren watched as the Denobulan fleet withdrew from Earth orbit, their terrible weaponry powering down. The planet looked so fragile from up here, a delicate jewel suspended in the infinite black. But it was safe. His people were safe. And that was enough. As the shuttle leapt toward the stars, carrying him to an uncertain fate, Darren closed his eyes at peace with his choice. Earth would remember him not as a prisoner, but as a guardian, a man who had given everything to secure his world's future. And on the blue planet below, life went on, cities rebuilt, wounds healed, and a new generation grew up, inspired by the legend of Darren Roberts, the hero who had sacrificed his own freedom so that humanity might reach the stars unshackled by fear, ready to face the wonders and challenges of the vast cosmos. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.